Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Tiana here, and I am back for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of another Super Mario 3D, a ROM hack of Super Mario 64 DS for the Nintendo DS. So, last time, we somehow managed able to collect even more Power Stars, so logically though we did somehow collect it for about 11 Power Stars during the forms in the last video, and so far we're now on to 52 Power Stars, so logically though, we've only got 21 more Power Stars to go until we basically fully 100% everything in terms of the forms of this ROM hack. And in addition to that, yes, as we expected, we did somehow unlock the final playable character, and that's of course Wario, and straight to the point is about the fact that the actual stage itself, before the boss fight, and usually relatively speaking though, is actually very self-explanatory this time around, as opposed to the forms of how it does on the, well, you can get the idea for this point. So anyway, so today for this video is that we are about to be collecting even more Power Stars, but as you can tell, we are now going to be able to take control of Wario. And as be expected, much like the forms of how it does on the actual Super Mario 64 DS game, obviously though, Wario, he's a powerhouse, and is especially noticeable, despite the fact that his jumps is nowhere near as high, compared to the forms of how it does it for Yoshi, Mario, and Luigi especially. But, as you can tell, we ended up in yet another secret course right there, which involves rounds we have to utilize the forms of Metal Wario. And suffice to say, we have to go for this little, poisonous, gas, or poisonous smoke, while trying to navigate through that particular cave section, much like the forms of how it does it on some parts of, Hazy Maze Cave, from the likes of in Super Mario 64, in addition to Super Mario 64 DS as well. And so much to the point, as you can definitely tell, I get the feeling we do need to able to try to find the Switch Stars somewhere, because the reason why I say this is because, well, obviously that was about the fact that this particular stage is nothing right to hum about, although it's especially noticeable considering for the fact, as you can tell, that yeah, in order to able to actually turn into Metal Warrior right there, you have to simply try to obtain the Power Flower, basically. So logically though, about the fact that we can able to actually grab the insane amount of those Power Flowers as we could, until whenever we able to realize about the fact that, you know, once we make our way to this particular point right there, then obviously though about the fact that we do able to realize not only we can able to easily try to defeat a whole bunch of Snippet guys, but as well as from that though is about the fact that we can able to actually become a lot more invincible state, in terms of the forms of trying to able to not get hit by any projectiles or anything else like that. So, and yeah, straight to the point is about the fact that we can able to actually go ahead and see that little crystal container, which as a result, that is where the Switch Star is supposed to be. But of course, we do need to find a switch, that's the thing, which I somehow realized that I accidentally managed able to actually just overshoot my jumps for a little moment. So, yeah, nothing else I can really say about this for the most part, apart from the fact that there are some unfortunate news just came up, ever since around a couple of days back, which I'll discuss more about that if we somehow managed able to get onto the forms of some revisits to certain worlds, able to actually fully complete everything, in terms of the forms of, let's just say, we're also able to actually go back into the first world, and in addition to the second world as well. So logically though, about the fact that we can able to try to conclude those worlds for reals, because now we actually able to actually now play as Wario, of all things, and so much to the point, for the fact that when it comes to the forms of Metal Wario, as far as the actual other things I'd like to point out, is that as soon as we're able to actually get into the final mission on the first world, basically that was about the fact that now we can able to actually walk on underwater while trying to transforming into Metal Wario. So yeah, before we get into the forms of the fully conclusion of the forms of the first world of this ROM hack, as you can tell, we somehow going back into the second world for the sake of the forms we're trying to tackle through not only the 100 coin Power Star mission, as you can definitely tell I'm on the process of going to that point, but in addition to that though, we're also going to be able to try to do yet another mission specifically for Wario, because, well, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that way, that you notice with the forms of those rocks, as we occasionally saw them, since in Journey Forms of our first visit, in Journey Forms of World 2 specifically, well, obviously though we can't do with those until we've somehow unlocked Wario, although I would have liked able to try to switch over to Yoshi for the better, because obviously though we can also able to actually access to Wario's cap as Yoshi, so logically though it's about the fact that I can probably do it that way, but of course I'm probably not going to get ahead of ourselves at this point right now, until specifically later on, once we get into the forms of, let's just say, the final main course, or the final main world, just before the final battle in this ROM hack, because as far as I'm aware, that I don't think it's possible we can able to actually fight against with Bowser for the second time for this video, but definitely the next video for sure, because either way, a few things I want to talk about this is though, and that's what appears to be for the fact that, well, today's date of course here is the 12th of July today, in some cases in 2025 today, and I'm afraid to tell you for this point guys, is about the fact that one of the most familiar actors who actually did the voice of not only James, the member of the Team Rocket's crew, and in addition to Meowth from the Pokemon anime, and in addition to that, the 4Kids voice actor of Vector the Crocodile from Sonic X, and in addition to that, you know, famous line for Vector the Crocodile, who usually says, "Find the computer room" in Shadow the Hedgehog. Unfortunately though, the actor who did the voice of those characters in particular sadly passed away since in 4 days ago. And I'm like, oh no, this is not good. Especially because I think he was roughly 71 years old, which his name was James Carter Cathcart, which I think that's what it says anyway. So, relatively speaking out, yeah, it's pretty sad to be able to actually see him passed away, especially because, again, like I stated earlier, that he did the voice of Vector the Crocodile during the films of around Sonic X during that time, as well as the films of the voice of Vector the Crocodile from the likes of well, what else? Shadow the Hedgehog, when he says, you know, "Find the computer room." So as a result though, yeah, it's pretty sad, you know. And in addition to that though, it's about the fact that it's also reassuring about this too, that he also did a bunch of, you know, acting for the sake of the films of likely trying to voicing James, Meowth, and in addition to some other characters as well from a bunch of Pokemon movies. In addition to that though, well, to be more accurate though, for the majority of the films that were around the time when, you know, ever since when, let's just say Pokemon Battle Frontier did somehow first aired, and in addition to Pokemon the Movie 9, Pokemon Ranger and the Temple of the Sea was first around. Obviously though, that is when some familiar actors have been changed for specifically the English dub for the likes of the majority of the films of the Pokemon anime for, you know, ever since the 2000s, or should I say, the mid-2000s, all the way up to 2020's era. So because of that though, yeah, you probably already know what I'm talking about here. And it was also reassuring about this too. He also did the voice of, let's just say, Sir Goland and Chef Megaha from the likes of Kirby Right Back at Ya. And like I said earlier, that he also did the voice of Vector the Crocodile in Sonic X for the sake of the forms of the 4Kids voice cast. So, but as you can tell, we somehow immediately completed the forms of, what else? The 100 coin Power Star mission. So as a result, we've only got one more course left in terms of the forms of, you know, the process where it comes to likely trying to complete the 100 coin Power Star mission. And I will say, the last one is going to be a little bit trickier than the rest. Well, that's mainly because no matter what though, I get the feeling that the final main world in the game, which I get the feeling is going to take place in a lava environment, and so much to the point, I don't think it does not contain the blue coin switch somewhere. I mean, we shall wait and see what happens, but either way, it's time to able to go back into this familiar world again to do the final mission, which is basically, it did say, don't trust the arrow signs, because it's almost like a complete opposite from Mission 5, so now we have to ignore those arrow signs this time around. So, yeah, kind of interesting mission to go through for this point. So as a result though, because I was assuming for the fact that I first thought that's going to lead us into straight to death if you ignore these arrow signs of its entirety. But ultimately though, oh jeez, that's not good. Because if I get hit, obviously though I'm ended up in this sliding position and there's no way to jump out of it, so I instantly died right there. So I blame on the forms that particular, well, let's just say a Monty Mole enemy placement, at least as far as I do realize. I mean, mind you though, it has been quite a while since we've last experienced this world, ever since in the beginning of this ROM hack. So, and on top of all that stuff though, it's about the fact that what I've also realized about the fact that CapKing74, or Stuart to be more specifically, that he's currently not only trying to work on some more recording sessions and journey forms within Miitopia, but also he decides able to check out some more stuff in terms of the forms of Super Mario Mon, which is basically it's like a Pokemon ROM hack from the Super Mario theme. So as a result though, yeah, I can totally see why for the fact that he's so obsessed with role-playing games most of the time, in addition to playing Pokemon stuff here and there as well. Which, gee, no wonder why about the fact that there's going to be a 9th anniversary coming up for Pokemon Go, despite the fact that, like I said, there's so many times already. I used to play it back then, but nowadays though, I just simply give up on playing it. Mainly because no matter what though, it's a bit time consuming to me. So, but that's the way how I feel about it in regards to the forms of GPS type of games like that. Although despite the fact that it does manage to receive some very mixed reception back then. So, anyway, so let's head back into that particular world right there, which as you can definitely tell, we are now going to be going into inside the ship. So not only for the fact that we can able to actually enter in that familiar entrance right there, but also taking a notice from the likes of the forms of a combination of not only wet dry world, but in addition to Big Boo Hut. Basically though, as far as I'm aware, in this mission right here, we do need to find the water level switch somewhere, and once we are done with all that, something tells me we need to get rid of every single booze inside the actual, the sunken ship. So because of that though, so thankfully though, that's pretty self-explanatory. Now of course we're pretty much used to this at this point, especially noticeable ever since in that particular secret course that we have to rescue Luigi from. So, yeah, that's as far as I can try able to describe about the forms of how this thing plays out to be. Oh, in addition to that though, is about the fact that I also did somehow realize about something. And that's what appears to be for the fact that it may look like that there's going to be yet another anniversary of the film also being made by Steven Spielberg, of all things, that he also did, you know, Back to the Future, and in addition to other projects during that time, including several cartoons in the past as well, like, you know, Tiny Toon Adventures, and in addition to, Animaniacs, and in addition to Pinky and the Brain, at least as far as I do notice, and in addition to a short-lived Pinky, Amira, and the Brain, because no matter what though, I've heard about that particular series, but it's just that what I've heard is nowhere near as popular as the individual counterparts within not only Tiny Toon Adventures, but in addition to Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain. So no matter what though, it's about the fact that there's a lot of mixed reception here and there. In terms of the films of made by, well, Steven Spielberg or something like that on those specific aspects. So, anyway, so as you can tell, for the fact that no matter what though, let's head back in there again to do the next mission, which involves around we need to find the secret entrance of the ship. But I might save that for later, because aside from all that stuff though, I think for the time being though, we need to try to find the, a power flower for Wario to turning into Metal Wario, so that way we need to find yet another Switch Star of anything else. So, and aside from all that stuff though, I'm pretty sure it's definitely possible for the fact that we are basically also almost done. In terms of the forms that something relates to the Switch Star specifically, just because alongside with the forms of the 100 coin Power Star mission, so straight to the point, we are actually getting very close of, you know, we're very close towards the end of this Let's Play for this point, folks. So, again, I do apologize for that particular awkward commentary sometimes, but that's just because, then again, the flight keeps on showing up out of nowhere in our room at the moment, and my tongue keeps on reacting about the forms of trying to eat the bug, and I was like, no, there is no way I'm just gonna eat the bug or anything else like that. So, I've no idea why I somehow managed able to point things out for the sake of time. Although, mind you though, at this point, that the weather condition is once again is going to be ridiculously hot, especially noticeable about the fact that the only thing I'm a little bit concerned of right now is about the fact that after all, we've only got about 5 more days to go now until Donkey Kong Bonanza is going to be on its way onto, you know, Nintendo Switch 2. And on top of all that stuff though, only, let's just say 12 days to go until Super Mario Party Jamboree Nintendo Switch 2 edition plus Jamboree TV is going to be on its way too. So logically though is about the fact that those are the only 2 things I'm really looking forward to in terms of the forms of the majority of the month, which I still haven't heard anything in terms of the forms of something Nintendo Direct related, so because I really can't guarantee for the fact that it's definitely not going to be happening this week. But regardless of such though, it's about the fact that we got quite a few chances left, especially noticeable about the fact that still we just literally about 2 months away from able to try to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Super Mario Bros. Franchise, which we keep on, you know, talking about that a lot, especially because still it's going to be pretty huge in regards to the forms of, you know, something Super Mario Bros. Related, you know? But I digress. So, and also, I was originally trying to able to get myself the actual DLC for the sake of the forms of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 Plus 4 on my Switch 1 version, but unfortunately though, I'm almost out of credit for the sake of the forms of my eShop account. So because of that though, I'm probably not going to get into any further details up to this point, because well, straight to the point though is about the fact that at this point in time, oh jeez, I keep messing up with these jumps, aren't I? Well, because then again though, about the fact that Wario's jump wasn't nearly as high compared to Mario's and Luigi's, and even Yoshi's especially, because for Yoshi though, you can just simply try to flutter jump, and I'm having a hard time trying to grab onto the ledge and then just trying to... Hold on a minute. There we go. Jeez, it took a bit of a while to be able to actually grab onto the ledge of some kind. But I digress. So anyway, back into what I was saying about the forms, that particular anniversary thing I was on about earlier on. That's what it appears to be for the fact that one of those films in particular, called The Goonies, basically though, The Goonies is also going to be able to be celebrating its 40th anniversary for this year. So logically though, both Back to the Future, the first film in the series, alongside with the films of The Goonies, have both going to be celebrating its 40th anniversary for the sake of the films of 2025. And I'm like, okay, that's actually quite huge, or should I say, pretty huge for the time, especially because considering for the fact that despite that, however though, that both of those films did somehow came out during the exact same year, as in, well, not only for the fact that we're able to actually have ourselves The Black Cauldron, which, suffice to say, I don't feel like talking about that film, to be honest with you, because I've heard so many negativity going on in terms of the films of The Black Cauldron, not only because of failed box office department, but also it's incredibly underwhelming, and it almost kills Disney to death. So because of that though, but thankfully though, during the films within the Renaissance era during that time, specifically thanks to, you know, The Little Mermaid and all that stuff, so logically though is about the fact that everything else will be, you get the idea for that point. So anyways though, folks, here's the forms of, suffice to say, the final main world in terms of the forms of this ROM hack. As you can definitely tell on screen, that we ended up in a lava environment looking location, which it does have its name by the way, and this place is actually called Womp Volcano. So yeah, I guess it's kind of like the forms of Leva Lava Land, and at the same time though, it almost kind of reminds me of the forms of Turtle Mountain, but in lava themed. So as a result though, yeah, we can able to see certain familiar womps especially, because suffice to say though, it's almost like a lava version of Womp's Fortress during the forms of it not only in Super Mario 64, but in addition to Super Mario 64 DS as well. So, and there's a switch there for some reason, which I suppose that will be for later. So, God knows if I was gonna able to come across into one of those missions like this. So, But anywho, so yeah, aside from all that stuff though is about the fact that there's also another thing else I'd like to explain to you all for something. That's of course, out of nowhere, there's actually going to be yet another Hatsune Miku is going to be on its way, or Hatsune Miku game is going to be on its way. That's what it appears to be this time around. It's almost like a paint studio of some sort, which appears to be Hatsune Miku Logic Paint S+, which is going to be releasing and joining at some point in this month, specifically for Nintendo Switch, and for whatever reason that the Switch 2 version was non-existent, despite the fact that I get the feeling that it might be better suitable for the sake of the forms of mouse controls if it does come out on Switch 2, but beggars can't be choosers, I suppose. So either way. So yeah, the first mission on this world is pretty self-explanatory. You have to make your way to the very top of the actual volcano, and that's all you have to do right there. So yeah, it's nothing right to home about, nothing difficult or anything, so yeah, I guess it's that. Although I would have liked able to actually go for the entire world for the time being, but of course we got some other things to worry about. So for instance though, we do need to able to actually taking care of the forms of, you know, the final mission in the first world. In some cases, you know what I'm saying, tree trunk meadow. So as a result, that way we should be able to actually try to go for that one last power star in that particular world. So anyway, it's also reassuring about this series that yes, until tomorrow, me and Kermit are about to be super excited until tomorrow, because we can definitely try to check out Superman, the most recent film of the forms of the Superman films industry. So, and suffice to say though, for this point guys, in the near points worth noting for, yeah, I will be ignoring the forms of the Smurfs movie, because obviously though, that film honestly feels very, very bad indeed. Well, I have no idea what the reviews is going to be like for the new Smurfs movie, for the sake of the films made by Paramount Pictures of some kind. But either way, we shall wait and see what happens until when that particular film comes out. For the majority of the time on America, whilst we won't be able to receive the film until specifically 6 days time. So, and speaking of which though, it's about the fact that we are definitely getting quite close to the halfway point in terms of the forms of July already. So chances are though is about the fact that still, time really does fly, you know. But either way, that pretty much concludes every aspect in terms of the first world of this ROM hack. So yeah, everything else goes all fine and dandy and everything. So either way, no issues whatsoever. So logically though is about the fact that after all, we can also able to actually go back into the desert world again to do the forms of the final mission from there. And even then though is about the fact that as far as I've already established that earlier, we've only got one more 100 coin power star mission left, and that's of course taking place in Womp Volcano. So, and actually kind of think about it, there's actually that particular secret area that I suppose I completely forgot able to actually enter this particular entrance right there, which does manage to take place in a, well, let's just say a winter wonderland kind of level like that. And, well, as far as I'm aware though, this particular course does have 2 mission objectives we can go into, such as, for instance though, we need to find the correct baby penguin to able to deliver it back to their mother, and suffice to say it's going to be right over there, just almost right near to where the house cabin was. So logically though, if you do find the correct penguin right there, like I just did right there, then we should be able to actually deal with this part no problem. Sometimes, if you have a first time experience in this ROM hack though, it will be confusing at times, but if you get the correct penguin like I just did there, then you should get the power star no problem. So, and also I do realize there was also the red coin mission here now as well. So either way though, assuming of course if we managed able to obtain a power star with Warrior right there, and I think I might get the sense of feeling we might able to actually switch back into Yoshi for the majority of the time from now on, just because obviously that was about the fact that Warrior could not reach higher ledges and stuff like that. So logically though, we'll go ahead and switch over to Yoshi just in case about the fact that we can able to, you know what I'm saying, keep on changing into Mario, Luigi, and Wario on the rare occasions. So yeah, we can do just that. But like I said before, there aren't any rabbits to catch. So because of that though, because yeah, as you can tell, there's only like 3 locked doors as opposed to 4 locked doors this time around. So, yeah, you get the idea. So, anyway though, oh, in addition to that though, it's about the fact that there's also another game that is finally able to try to get the physical release of the game. That's what appears to be, well, Octodad. And suffice to say, Octodad is finally going to be seeing a Nintendo Switch physical release, all thanks to the forms of limited run games. So, yeah, once again, because of how the fact that they always attempt able to release those third-party supportive games on a limited run games company, as far as I'm aware of. But either way, though, it has been about quite some time since we last mentioned something related to limited run as a company itself, who made those limited editions of some of those physical games for PS4, Xbox Series X/S, or Xbox One even, and in addition to Nintendo Switch itself too. Because, well, I do remember back then that whenever I looked upon the forms of the physical copies of not only Freedom Planet, but in addition to the majority of the forms of those Shantae games, including the Game Boy Color re-release, or to be more specifically though, just a port or something like that. My goodness, the pricing is so ridiculously high. If you really want to go after the physical versions of the majority of the Shantae games, with only one exception, mind you though, that's of course Half Genie Hero Ultimate Edition, because I'm pretty sure that particular version is actually pretty common, depending on what version of the game you're getting. So, anyway. Oh, and unfortunately though, is about the fact that something tells me about the fact I felt incredibly sorry for Americans out there. Enjoyed at some point on the 1st of August of all things, is that I'm afraid to say that the gaming prices, specifically not only for Nintendo Switch 1 things, but in addition to Nintendo Switch 2 things here now as well, at least in America, sadly though, the pricing amount is about to change until next month, and I'm like, oh no. I bet about the fact that there are some controversy out there in terms of the forms about the fact that it's going to be so sad about the fact that those prices will eventually get increased in America if you're trying to go after not only Nintendo Switch 1 stuff, but in addition to Nintendo Switch 2 stuff you know as well. It's all thanks to the forms of that godforsaken tariffs. So, yeah, I wonder who's responsible for that. Well, you might have guessed at this point of who exactly will be responsible for that. Because, well, suffice to say though, is about the fact it's not going to be that good in the near future to come. Because, imagine this, right? If you're excited able to actually guarantee to get yourselves the next couple of games in the future, specifically for Nintendo Switch 2, like, you know, Kirby Air Riders, and in addition to Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, and maybe, just maybe, something relates to the Mario's 40th anniversary or something, and maybe even more games to come. I mean, time will definitely tell though, because either way though, we're still on the phones within July of course, so, and thus we are still waiting for, you know, Donkey Kong Bonanza to able to finally get a chance to get released. So, anyway, I just realized the last red coin is actually at the very beginning of the level, which I did not know that until now, because obviously though I need to pay attention to those surroundings a lot. But hey, at least we did somehow manage to able to accomplish that, no problem. So, either way, let's grab this Power Star, and suffice to say, we are essentially done with this particular course right there. And yeah, nothing else I can really say about this, I guess. So, anyway, so yeah, aside from all that stuff though, is about the fact that there's also reassuring about this too, that I'm pretty sure that The Bad Guys 2, yet another DreamWorks movie, is going to be getting closer to its release. So suffice to say though, is about the fact that I still haven't seen the first film yet, plus it's mainly because back in Journey films and around in 2022, that we basically got excited for the sake of the films of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, back in Journey films within 2022 of course, so, but I digress. So, and exponentially speaking now is about the fact that once we do manage to able to actually finally get a chance to see, you know, Superman until tomorrow, which again, I'm probably not going to go into any spoilers for the time being, just because that film is relatively new. So suffice to say though, is about the fact that after we somehow saw Superman, the next film we're definitely going to be seeing for the likes of the films of 2025, and that's of course Zootropolis 2 or Zootopia 2 if you lived in America, which still I'm basically excited for that film to come out either way, just because it's been, 9 years since the first film came out, which, suffice to say though, I still really enjoy the first film even to this day, especially because of how popular that film can be, especially considering about the fact that concerning that Zootopia or Zootropolis if you lived in the European countries, they did somehow, or that film came out during the exact same year as in Moana, which as a result is very cool and awesome at the same time to me though. In regards to the films are trying to release those two Disney films simultaneously, or should I say in the actual specific gap in between or something. I mean, it's been quite some time since I actually mentioned something Disney related, but that's mainly because at that point in time, about the fact that I'm still very curious to know what's going to be up next, in terms of the forms of what's to come. Oh jeez, that was close. I'm almost going to slip all the way downwards, and either way, so as you can tell, we've somehow managed able to go back into a familiar obstacle course since, let's just say on the second part of this Let's Play so far, because as far as I do realize, there are some red coins we need to get, so because of that, hopefully it's not going to take that long to be able to actually get to this point. I mean, sure enough though, it's about the fact that there might be still a couple of times though about the fact that some red coins are pretty easy to miss sometimes, especially noticeable about the fact that that's how the good thing that the camera functionality decides to come into play in order to be able to see the surroundings a little bit better, so. But I digress. So, and it's also reassuring about this too, is about the fact that I'm pretty sure that CapKing74, or Stuart for that matter, that he's actually getting very close to 200 subscribers during at some point in the next few months to come. I mean, after all, he's currently now on to 180 followers so far, or should I say subscribers, so he's doing rather well. So as a result though, he's almost barely trying to catch up in regards to the forms of the subscriber count for him. So yeah, kudos to the forms of Stuart, by the way, because he's doing a pretty good job so far. In terms of the forms of some Let's Plays so far, well, usually two of them as for right now, which is of course Miitopia and Super Mario Mon, so yeah, you can get the idea for that point. So, oh, and speaking of the forms of something Pokemon related though, only 10 more days to go until the Pokemon Presents is going to be fastly approaching for the sake of the forms of the actual you know what I'm saying, with presentations alike. So, logically though, is about the fact I'm still optimistic about the forms of several of those information we'll bring ourselves into. I mean, still, we'll have to wait and see what happens until whenever we make our way to the 22nd of July on Tuesday specifically. So, either way. So, yeah, I have to keep on double check on the actual map again, and then also at the same time keep on talking to Bob and Buddy here, so logically though we can able to actually just see where all these specific red coins are going to be at. So, I mean, still, no matter what though, is about the fact it's been quite some time since we've last experienced this particular course, since, whenever we first got to this point, so. But still, I'm not a big fan of about the fact that those Goombas can be aggressive sometimes, especially with all that knockback is going to occur, but either way, I've no idea why I somehow managed able to point it out, so either way. So, logically though, we can able to actually use the shell to serve all the actual poison swamp right there, which is pretty amusing, especially because, much like the lava and the ice water especially, that we can just simply try to able to have no harms with it whatsoever. And I get the feeling that the last red coin is going to be, I get the feeling I do need to able to hit back into those little log platforms as far as I'm aware, because I think that is where the last red coin is going to be located, so. And suffice to say, I think I see that little edge right there, and suffice to say, we found it. So, nicely done. Nicely done for my skills, so. Alright, so now I need to get the power star, and I think once we're able to done with that, then we can able to actually end off the video. So I can't believe we've once again did manage to able to collect it for about 11 power stars again, which still no wonder why this particular Let's Play is going to be super duper quick. Compared to the forms of how it does it on Super Mario 64, in addition to Super Mario 64 DS as well, but I digress. So, anyway, suffice to say for this point, guys, is that we get endings off this point right here. So join me next time for some more of Let's Play of another Super Mario 3D, a ROM hack of Super Mario 64 DS. It's suffice to say, this is going to be the finale for tomorrow, and suffice to say we can grab the last bunch of power stars and stop Bowser for the second and the final time. So I'll see you guys until tomorrow. Later, fellas.